Hey guys, welcome back. So we got some experience doing what's my rule in class. So now we're just going to go over the whole meaning of what's my rule. Now what's my rule does, it helps you find the equation given an XY chart, okay? Now for number one, I'm just going to go ahead and give you the values. The values are -2, 0, -1, 3, 0, 6, 1, 9, and 2, 12. Okay, now this is the XY chart that I have for you. Now we can come up with the equation by looking for two things. The first thing is you want to look to see what number is going to go in front of the X. Now the X is the rate. The way that you calculate this is you look at the change in Y and you're going to divide it by the change in X. Now over here, the change in Y, it goes from 0 to 3, so you add 3, 3 to 6, you add 3, 6 to 9, add 3, 9 to 12, you add 3, okay? Now on the other side, you're going to be adding 1, all right, to get to the next number. Now, like I was telling you before, the way that you find the rate is you're going to look at the change in Y, which in this case is a +3, and you're going to divide it by the change in X, which in this case is 1. So you can have 3 over 1, or you can just have 3 by itself, okay? Now the other part of this is that number that's being added at the end. Now the way you get this number is you have to look for the input of 0. And remember, the X represents the input. So the input of 0 is over here. All right, since the input is 0 for the X, the output is 6, so the answer is 6. So the equation for this chart is Y equals 3X plus 6. This next one we are also going to do together. Now this one's going to be a little bit different and you'll see why in a second. So we have -2, 0, 2, 4, 6, and over here we have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have the points -2, 6, 0, 7, 2, 8, that is an 8, 4, 9, and then 6, 10. So to find the rate for this one, we're going to take a look at what's happening. Now over here, we're adding 1 each time. All right, so the change in Y is 1. Now we're going to divide that by the change of X. Now the change of X this time is +2. All right, so therefore the rate, which is in front of the X, is 1 over 2. So we're going to be multiplying 1/2 times X. Now we have to find the input. The input of 0 gets me an output of 7. Therefore it's going to be 1 over 2X plus 7. Okay? Now the next two I want you guys to try on your own. So let me give you guys the numbers for them. So for number 5, we have -1, 2. We have 0, -4. We have 1, -10. We have 2, -16. And then we have 3, -22. Okay? I want you guys to try this one on your own. You have to come up with Y equals something times X plus or minus something, and then we'll go over it. Go ahead and do that right now. All right, hopefully you got this one correct. So the change in Y is going to be subtracting 6 each time. So each time we get to the next number, we're subtracting 6. All right, and then on the other side, each time we are adding 1. All right, so this is going to be Y equals -6 over 1, or just -6, X, and then the input of 0 gives me an output of -4, so it's going to be -6. You can say plus -4, or you can just put -4. Either one is good, okay? All right, now try this one on your own as well. The numbers for these are -4, -7, 0, 2, 0, -2, 4, 3, 8, 8, and finally 12, 13. Go ahead and figure out what the equation or the rule is for number 6. Go ahead and do that right now. All right, so the change in the y is plus 5 each time. So each time you get to the next one, you are adding 5. And on the other side, you're adding 4. Okay, so that would give me a number that goes in front of x would be 5 over 4. So we have 5 over 4 in front of the x, so y equals 5 over 4x, and then the input of 0 gives me an output of -2, so I'm going to put -2 right there. Okay? All right, so now what we're going to be doing in the next part of this is we're going to be filling in some empty spaces, and then we're going to find the rule. So we're going to do the first 5 together, so we're going to do 7 through 11 together, and you're going to do 12 through 13 on your own. All right? Now, to fill in the blank, what we have to do is we have to find the pattern. All right? Now, over here, you can see that each time you're going to the next one, you are adding a value of 8. So to get from -10 to -2, you add 8. To get from -2 to 6, you add 8. Okay? So what we're going to need to do to get to the next one is add 8. So 6 plus 8 is 14. All right? So that's the filling in the blank part. Now, what we need to do is come up with the rule. So that's pretty much what we were doing up there. So over here, we're adding 8 each time. And you can see if I add 8 to 14, I do get 22. On this side, I'm adding 1 each time. All right? So the rate or the number in front of x is going to be 8 over 1 or just 8. Either one works. All right? Y equals 8 over 1x. And then over here, this input of 0 gives me an output of 6. So I'm going to have plus 6. Now again, you don't have to have that over 1 there if you don't want to. So you can just have it as y equals 8x plus 6. Okay? Now this one has missing spots on the x and the y. So let's just look at the y part first. So over here I minus 3. So what I'm going to have to do to get to the next one is -3. So 2 minus 3 is -1. And if I subtract 3 from -1, I do get -4. If I subtract 3 from -4, I will get a -7. On the other side, you can see that it's adding 2 each time. So 2 to 4, 0 to 2 gets me an add 2, and add 2 gets me to the 4. Adding 2 to that gets me to the 6. Add 2 to that, that's going to get me 8 over here. So that's filling in the blank, filling in the spaces. Now to come up with the rule, you can see that we already have y equals -3 over 2x, and then the input of 0 gives me output of 5, so it's going to be plus 5. Okay? Now the next one has even more missing spaces, so we're just going to have to keep going with what we're doing here. So over here we have 1 to 6. That's me adding 5. Okay, since I added 5, I'm going to continue adding 5 each time to get to the next number. I'm going to add 5 each time. So 1 plus 5 is 6, 6 plus 5 is 11, 11 plus 5 is 16, 16 plus 5 is going to get me, 16 plus 5 is going to get me 21. Okay, now on the other side, I add 2 to both sides, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, all right? That's going to give me -2, 0, 2, 4, 6. Okay? Now the rule again is the change in the y over the change in the x. The change in the y is 5. We're going to divide that by the change in the x, which is 2. So it's 5 over 2x, and then the input of 0 gives me an output of 6. So I'm going to put plus 6 there. All right? Now the next one is kind of tricky because we have some missing spaces in between. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to find out how do you get from 3 to 23, and then how do you get from -3 to 1. Okay? To get from 3 to 23, we added 20. To get from -3 to 1, we added 4. So this is a fraction of 20 over 4. Now what's nice about this fraction is that we can reduce this fraction to get you 5 over 1. What that means is each time instead of going up and skipping stuff, if I just want to go to the very next one, instead of adding 20, I add 5. So to get from 3 to the next one, I'm going to add 5. That's going to get me 8. Add 5 again. That's going to get me 13. All right. Add 5 again. That's going to get me 18. And if I add 5 one more time, I will get 23. And you can see that it's already there. Okay. Now that 4 turned into a 1. So that means I'm just going to add 1 each time. So if I add 1, I'm going to get -2. Add 1, I'm going to get -1. Add 1, I'm going to get 0. Add another 1, I'm going to get 1. Okay? Now, the y equals mx, or y equals formula, we're going to have y equals, now we're not going to put the 20 over 4, we're going to put the reduced fraction, which is 5 over 1, or you can just put 5. So y equals 5x. And then we're going to see the input of 0 gives me an output of 8. Now I didn't have the input of 0 yet, but now that I have it, input of 0, output is 8, is going to be +8. Okay? Now this one's kind of unique because you have to work backwards in this one. Alright, so over here we have 214 and then 310. How do you get from 14 to 10? But what we have to do is we have to subtract 4, okay? And over here, we're adding 1. Now, if we wanted to work backwards, we got to do the opposite of what we see here. So since we're subtracting 4 to go backwards, to go forwards, I'm going to have to add 4. So this is now 18. If I add 4 to that, this is going to be 22. If I add 4 to that, it's going to be 26. Okay? Over here, I subtracted 1. I'm sorry, I added 1 to get from 2 to 3. So to go backwards, I have to subtract 1. So that's going to get me 1. Okay? Subtract another 1, that's going to get me 0. Subtract another 1, that's going to give me -1. So there's me filling in the chart with these 3 missing sections over here. Now to come up with the rule, we'll just keep doing what we've been doing. Y equals, the rate is going to go, now we're not going to look at the ones where we went backwards. We're going to look at the one where we went forwards. Okay? It would be -4 over 1x. And now that we have the input of 0, we can see the output is 22, so it's +22. Okay? Now, please take the time to write this down because these are very similar to what you see down here. And you're going to have to do these right now. So I'll give you guys a second. Go ahead and do all 5 problems, and then we'll go over them. All right, for number 12, okay, this is kind of like this one over here where you had to skip some stuff. So to get from 2 to -6, we subtracted 8. To get from 2 to 4, we added 2. So we have -8 over 2, and -8 over 2 is just -4 over 1. Okay, so to go from 2 to the next one, I'm going to have to subtract 4 there. That's going to give me -2. Okay, to go backwards, I'm going to have to add 4. Add 4 to that, you get 6. Add 4 to that, you get 10. Over here, we know that we skipped 1, we got 2, but then over here it turned to a 1. So add 1, that's going to be 3. Subtract 1, that's going to be 1. Subtract 1, that's going to be 0. All right, so this is going to wind up being y equals -4 over 1x plus 10, or just -4x plus 10. Now this one is a little bit easier to do because all you got to do is just keep going down. So over here you add 1, so you're going to keep adding 1 each time. So it's going to wind up being 14, 15, 16. Over here, you're adding 3. So you got to keep adding 3 each time. -3 plus 3 is 0. 0 plus 3 is 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. Okay? All right, so the formula would be y equals 1 over 3x. And then over here, we have the input of 0 gives me an output of 14, so it's going to be plus 14. Okay? Now for this one, each time to get to the next one, you add 0. So that means going back, you to subtract 0, which would be 23. So these would all be 23. All right? Over here, you're adding 1 each time, so if you add 1 to that, you get 0. Over here, if you subtract 1, you get negative 4. So that's me filling it in. This is going to wind up being y equals, now it's going to be 0 over 1, which is just 0, x, all right, 0x, and then plus 23. Now 0 times x is just 0, so you can just leave this as y equals 23 as your answer, okay? All right, the next one is another one where you have to find out what the immediate slope is, immediate rate of change is. So to get from 4 to negative 8, what you're doing is you're subtracting 12. To get from negative 3 to 1, you're adding 4. So negative 12 over 4 is equal to negative 3 over 1. Okay, so subtract 3 from 4, that's going to get you 1. Subtract 3 from the 1, that gets you negative 2. Subtract 3 from that, that gets you negative 5. Subtract 3 from that, that gets you negative 8, which we already had there. Over here, it's going to be adding 1 each time, so negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. 1 plus 0 plus 1 is 1. So we get y equals negative, over here, negative 3 over 1x, and then the input over here of 0 is negative 5, so we're going to put minus 5. Okay, now this is like number 11 where we had to work backwards over here. So to get from 3 to 8, you add 5. To get from 6 to 9, you're going to add 3. Okay, so we know that it's y equals 5 over 3x. But now we have to find the 0. We're going to go backwards now. So we're going to subtract 5 to go backwards. Okay, if you subtract 5 to go backwards, that's going to give you a negative 2. Subtract another 5, that's going to give you negative 7. Subtract another 5, that's going to give you a negative 12. Over here to go backwards, we're going to have to subtract 3, that gets you 3. Subtract another 3, that gets you 0. Subtract another 3, that gets you negative 3. So the input of 0 gives you an output of negative 7. All right, so we are done with these notes. They were only one-sided. Hopefully you got this. We're going to do some more experience with this tomorrow.